Okay, so before we go too far into adding lots of different gizmos, I want to take a step back and just focus on grid-based layouts for a minute. So we've got our dashboard with a gizmo in it. The dashboard is in a grid layout mode, and gizmos are inherently grid-based. So even in any one gizmo, if I go and edit my dashboard and go look at my gizmo, you'll see it looks like a grid to start here. And then within it, I do have ways to override individual gizmo grid configurations. So, but we're not going to worry about that yet. So what I typically do when I'm working on a freeform application is I'm going to take my form fields and add them to a grid so that I can manage them independently, because you're going to realize soon enough that you're going to have sections of an application that you have different layout requirements on. So to show you how you can do this, I'm going to take my gizmo and I'm going to move it into a grid. Now you can do this with any number of parts. So whether it's HTML parts or gizmo parts, I can select them all, select the type of thing I want to move them into, and then I can just say move all into. Now what's great here is that I'm going to move this into a grid, and now I've got a grid layout. So I'm going to edit this. I'm going to call this my form fields. So I'm going to say L form fields, and this is just our own naming convention, so L for layout. And then this thing can be 24 columns. It can still be 100%, but maybe I want everything in this grid to take up 12 columns each. So by making this simple change and saving it, I can return to my application and refresh it, and now my field is smaller. All right, so this is going to give me some flexibility on how I lay out the various parts and pieces that I'm going to put in my application. Now we did talk one more thing about this 100% notion, this label being stacked. I don't have to run my subgrid this way. I can come down to form fields now, edit this, and I can change the way this grid works. So I might say, you know what, instead of, each subfield is going to take up 24 or 12 columns, my 24 column grid, but if the parts inside it, the label and the input field, maybe it's going to be 4 and 8. So a semicolon delimited list of values. I can save this, refresh my page, and then you'll see that I'm going to get a different look here. So now if I turn on debug and I look at this field, I've got my grid, which is spanning 4 for this part and 8 for this part inside a 12 column section here. Okay, so those are some things you can do with grid layouts. Simple and easy.